now move on to the next part of our program, which is the presentation of the Arrancada Lifetime Achievement Award. This was first presented in 2013, and many of you may be asking what this award is all about. The presentation trophy reads, "In recognition of outstanding contributions and superb leadership over several decades to achieving highly significant and lasting institutional and policy reforms of long-term benefit to the people and economy of the Republic of the Philippines." Our recipients have been the late President Fidel V. Ramos, PEZA Director General Lilia de Lima, the late business titan Washington Sisip, the late Foreign Secretary Roberto Romulo, former BSP Governor Sai Tetanco, the late Senator Ed Angara, former Foreign Secretary Delia Albert, Chairman of the Wallace Business Forum Peter Wallace, Go Negosyo Foundation founder Joey Concepcion, and former Senate President Franklin Drilon last year. Here with us today is former Foreign Secretary Ambassador Delia Albert. Thank you for your continued support to Arrancada. We are honored today to recognize as our 11th recipient, Mr. Shameem Qurashi. Shameem has been a key advocate for the improvement of business climate and better investment and inclusive growth in the Philippines. He started his career in the Philippines as advisor and associate of the Gulf Shipping Corporation, member of the International Advisory Board of the Land Oil Resources Corporation of the Philippines, and chairman of the board for Middle East ASEAN Industries and Investment Company. On June 5, 1978, he was appointed by President Ferdinand Marcos as advisor to the Middle East Trade and Economic Affairs. This was the first time that a non-Philippine national has been accorded this rank and status. With this honorary appointment, he undertook to provide key advisory services on concerns involving the Middle East, Philippines, and the Far East. In 1982, Mr. Qurashi became one of the founders of the Philippine Association of Multinational Companies Regional Headquarters, Inc., or PAMURI. PAMURI was an industry association formed to represent and entice regional operating headquarters and regional area headquarters to invest in the country, who then can provide management support to parent companies and affiliates globally. Through PAMURI, Mr. Qurashi was able to encourage many ROHQs and RHQs to bring in substantial inward remittances and provide many well-paying jobs to Filipinos. Mr. Qurashi was instrumental as well in pushing for the enactment of Republic Act No. 8756, or the ROHQ law, to provide the regulatory and legal framework for ROHQs in the Philippines. He worked closely with the Department of Trade and Industry to help design incentives that would entice many ROHQs to locate in the Philippines. Over several decades, together with the government, PAMURI had been successful in promoting the Philippines as an IT BPM investment destination of choice. As chairman of PAMURI, Shameem was also instrumental in the formation of the Joint Foreign Chambers. He was directly involved in putting together this unique coalition of the American, Australian, New Zealand, Canadian, European, Japanese, Korean chambers. Over several decades, the JFC has grown to represent over 3,000 member companies engaged in around $100 billion worth of trade and some $30 billion worth of investments in the Philippines. Through the JFC, Shameem was a crucial ally in supporting and promoting open international trade, increased foreign investment, and improved conditions for business to benefit both the Philippines and the countries of the JFC members. Today, we are incredibly pleased to confer the Arrancada Lifetime Achievement Award to Mr. Shameem Qurashi. I would now like to ask representatives of the JFC to join me on stage. And Shameem's son, Mr. Safdar Qurashi, is here with us today to represent his father in today's ceremony.
Thank you and congratulations to Pamuri founder and former chairman Shameem Qurashi. Now let's hear from Safdar Qurashi on stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for this wonderful award. As you can see, unfortunately, Mr. Qurashi is not here today, so you'll have to settle for version 2.0, which is myself, for this afternoon, but I'll try to live up to his high standards as best that I possibly can. He asked that I read his speech for him, and I'm more than happy to do that. And thank you, of course, to the JFC for this wonderful recognition. So, since my father is not able to be here today, he asked me to make these remarks on his behalf. Thank you to all the JFC members and our friends in the other chambers. I'm very grateful to the Joint Foreign Chambers for this recognition and consider you all over the years to be a part of my extended family. We are very pleased to support the sustainability agenda of the Philippine government and especially pleased that this is the main theme of the Arrancada platform for this year. Since the 1970s, when I first arrived in the Philippines, I have been fortunate enough to have been in a position to help improve the economic relations between the Philippines and the Middle East and other countries through my professional endeavors. These efforts culminated in my appointment by President Ferdinand E. Marcos as advisor to the Middle East for Trade and Economic Affairs. The open support provided by President Marcos and his dynamic vision enabled us to work with global government and business sectors interested in learning more about what the Philippines has to offer in the mid and late 70s. The support of the President, government agencies at that time, including the BOI, the Immigration Department, Finance Department, and the SEC, all contributed to create the necessary environment for more interest and investments to be attracted to the Philippines. We were successful in bringing members of the global business community, members of the UAE royal family, and for the first time, members of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's royal family to visit and explore opportunities in this wonderful country. We also encouraged delegations from OPEC to visit the Philippines during that time, including a visit by the OPEC president at that time. During my appointment as advisor for Middle East for Trade and Economic Affairs, I was fortunate enough to have been involved in many projects which promoted and bore fruit for the Philippines. This included one of the first Filipino companies which was able to successfully secure a contract and run and manage the port of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, contributing to the growth of the manpower industry on the whole as a result. Promoting the export of Philippine-made construction materials to the Middle East countries and also significant exports of cement to the Gulf was another priority item on my agenda to help the Philippines prosper and grow in the mid and late 70s. These were nascent industries at the time, but we worked tirelessly to promote the manpower industry, the export of cement and construction materials, which I felt the Philippines could do a very good job in going forward. After my entry to the Philippines, where I was involved in the first proposals for engagement to the country, we were approached by the Saudi Arabian government to inquire on the fact that Filipinos were trying to secure a contract to run and manage the port of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, the first of its kind in the region. This was a very highly ambitious project, but I felt that it was possible that a Filipino company with the skills and capabilities of the Filipino people was capable of such an endeavor. We were specifically requested to confirm this undertaking by the Saudi Arabian government. In my opinion, companies from the Philippines were able to undertake this task or were qualified and capable to do so. The company used to launch the project was originally arranged with a Philippine company jointly with a Singaporean company called Singapore Ports Authority. This was composed of Singapore management and Philippine support staff, and the company was called Philzin Ports. The Philippines was trying to provide Singapore the manpower to run and manage ports at that time. The Philippines was tasked to provide management assistance and to provide basic manpower to undertake the project to assure government approvals in the very strict region of the Middle East. The project was thereafter presented by us to the Saudi government and eventually was approved and accepted, with the assurance that the project would be adequately staffed and professionally run by internationally qualified managers. Based on these, the Saudi government agreed to award the contract to Philzin Ports Corporation, composed of highly trained and capable staff. As a result of our concerted efforts to push Filipino manpower in the Middle East, the Philippines successfully managed to secure one of the first landmark contracts in Saudi Arabia for manpower deployment and port management in the late 70s. This arguably laid to an early foundation in part for what is the current deployment of millions of Filipinos abroad worldwide today, especially in the Middle East, a massive source of revenue for the country and job opportunities for Filipinos worldwide. I am very proud to have been part of this in the early stage where the manpower industry was not a large or recognized industry worldwide, but this breakthrough in Saudi Arabia, I believe, was very positive for the Philippine people. We also worked very hard to promote exports and managed to provide a stable environment for the Philippines to export large quantities of local quality cement to the Middle East, which continued for a period of over 10 years and made the Philippines a player in the thriving construction industry in the Middle East, earning badly needed foreign exchange and creating jobs in the cement industry for the Philippines, which was depressed at the time. We also worked with the Philippine and Gulf governments to explore and secure banking licenses for Middle East banks to facilitate investments in the Philippines, both through traditional and Islamic banking. I would like to comment on two projects which are a part of my life. One is the importation of drinking water to the arid region of the Middle East via converted oil tankers into water tankers. And the other is the Saigon Floating Hotel, which is the first five-star hotel to be established in Vietnam, credited by the worldwide press and Vietnam government with the opening up of the Vietnam economy. On the water project, it was my mission to supply water to find suitable sources of water in ASEAN and to develop clean transportation which was sustainable to the Middle East markets. We identified water sources in Malaysia and we received by and discussed the project with then Finance Minister Datu Anwar Ibrahim. Datu Anwar recommended we export water from Lake Kinyar in Terengganu State to the Middle East. Detailed meetings were also held with Prime Minister Mahathir. And at the time, we were fortunate enough to obtain the keen interest of the Qatari royal family and the project was valued by them at $450 million. The brother-in-law of the then Qatar Crown Prince and uncle of the current ruler was chosen as our partner in the project. We then negotiated with various shipping groups and finally partnered with Maersk Shipping Group for ships to be provided for drinkable water through converted oil tankers into tankers built purposely for the transport of clean drinking water. Because of my affinity to the Philippines, we chose a site in the Philippine port of Polyok to convert the ships from oil tankers to water tankers and secured the government's joint interest through my close friend and supporter, President Fidel Ramos. On the Saigon Floating Hotel, in the early 80s, I was advised that some members of the People's Committee of the Ho Chi Minh government were visiting the Philippines. Now you have to remember that this was the embargo time. Although somewhat secretly, the meetings were held in the Philippines and I was requested to meet with them. I hesitated because of the lack of interest in Vietnam and the crippling effect of the embargo. The need was clear to me. There was no world-class hotel facility in Vietnam, and this was a desperate requirement to facilitate trade and investment in Vietnam. After much persuasion from the Vietnamese to guide them and address this need, I suggested the only way for this to work will be to use our experience in the Middle East, where we had put in a luxury ship with hotel rooms docked in the harbor. The team took me to see Mayor Pham Van Khai in Vietnam. I said we would try to provide the Dubai experience to Ho Chi Minh, to which he commented in very broken English, "You mean floating hotel?" Pham Van Khai, who became a very close friend of mine despite our language barrier, he spoke no English, and I obviously did not speak any Vietnamese, subsequently went on to become the Prime Minister of Vietnam, credited for opening up the economy of Vietnam in many ways. I had heard that a Japanese group had secured a floating barge ship with 300 hotel rooms on it, and it was located in the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. We exerted all efforts to negotiate it with the Japanese owner so that this so-called floating hotel would be set up in Vietnam. The hotel was recommended by my long-term friend and partner, Robert Burns, the founder and previous owner of the Regent Hotel Group, which is now owned by IHG Hotels. The hotel, as it was called, featured a casino, 5-star rooms, and was built upon a floating barge. It was docked in Ho Chi Minh across the statue of Ho Chi Minh himself. The general manager of the hotel, our employee at the time, went on to become the CEO of IHG, Intercontinental Hotels Group. At that time, it would be interesting for you to know, the hotel did not allow the entry of Vietnamese onto its premises. A Coke cost $9 and a cup of coffee was $14. And it was also a several-day wait list to make calls. Yet, it operated at 100% occupancy in the mid-80s at $400 per room per night. Anyway, to cut a long story shorter, as the Japanese owner was losing millions in Australia, they agreed to a joint venture to transfer the hotel to Vietnam. It was pulled via tugboats from the Great Barrier Reef to the Ho Chi Minh River. I have heard stories that it was followed by 6 submarines because it was embargo time. I do know that there were fighter jets monitoring it while it was arriving in the region. Financing was a problem. We approached the UAE government and they agreed to provide a guarantee to set up the floating hotel in Vietnam for $150 million. The Vietnamese government, after much deliberation, agreed to locate the hotel in Ho Chi Minh at the mouth of the river next to Ho Chi Minh statue, a landmark location. Sadly, I could not travel to Vietnam as there was a coup d'etat in Manila that same week. However, the opening ceremony went ahead without my presence, and the speech was read by our Australian partner. Pham Van Khai, the mayor at the time, commented that this could not have happened in Vietnam without our efforts, and that he was going to exert every effort to open up the economy of Vietnam. As time passed, I was welcomed back again to the floating hotel as part owner and founder. The Vietnam government appreciated our efforts and announced that the investment in the floating hotel, the first ever five-star hotel in Vietnam, opened Vietnam's economy to the world, and the rest is history. Going forward, we are very proud of our sustainability initiatives, energy efficiency with our partners such as BBP, bioremediation with our investments such as BioPure, both of which are applied in this very complex, in this very building that you're sitting in. And we hope to continue to support the sustainability agenda of Arrancada and the Philippine government going forward. Now, Pamuri. In the 1980s, Pamuri was formed, and I was fortunate and honored to be one of its founding partners with the mission of promoting my much-loved home, the Philippines, as an attractive location for regional headquarters and increased investment. Along with the late Senator Edgardo Angara, as well as Attorney Violeta Drilon, we conceptualized this industry association to attract multinational companies to invest in the Philippines. In the year 2000, we lobbied for the signing of Republic Act 8756, which enabled the Philippines to attract a substantial number of ROHQs and RHQs from global Fortune 500 companies. This was possible because of the sustained efforts of the government and our energetic chamber to attract multinational companies to relocate in the Philippines. We had competition from Singapore and from Malaysia, but we feel that we have done a very strong job to support the Philippines in this mission. I have been fortunate to work closely with every administration since the 70s to promote the Philippines, and great colleagues who have supported the initiatives to create more jobs and opportunities for Filipinos here and abroad. I am blessed to have been able to work tirelessly to help increase investments in the Philippines and ASEAN in various capacities, both professionally and personally over the years. I truly appreciate this recognition, and I'm proud to be joining the ranks of the late President Ramos, Washington CSIP, Senator Angara, Senator Franklin Drilon, among other distinguished personalities. As long as the Philippines continues to protect its image with investors and partners in the global community as a hospitable climate for foreign investment, it should be able to surmount any challenges that come now or in the future. I'm hoping that this continues in an upward trajectory. I feel that I have left a reasonable legacy for my colleagues to carry forward for the benefit of this country. Thank you to my friends and family for this honor today. The JFC and Arrancada are in good hands. May God bless you all. May I ask my brother and mother to join me on stage to say thank you for this award on behalf of my dad. Thank you to the Joint Foreign Chambers for this honor, and more power to Arrancada.
Thank you, Safdar, for accepting the Arrancada Lifetime Achievement Award on behalf of your father, Pamuri founder and former chairman, Shameem Qurashi. Thank you, Safdar.